This video will discuss strategies for dividing by sevens. When dividing by sevens, the most efficient strategy is to think multiplication. So in 21 divided by 7, I'm going to think 7 times what is 21. If I know my multiplication facts, I know that this is 3. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. The reason why this works is in division, our total is at the beginning, and the 7 and the 3, these parts talk about the groups and how many in a group. So in multiplication, the product, the ending number here, this is the total. And these two factors talk about how many in a group and how many groups. So because of that, because of this relationship between multiplication and division, we can use multiplication to solve division. But what if I don't know my facts or I can't remember one of them? 49 divided by 7. We could skip count. A way to think about this division problem is how many sevens are in 49? So I have 49. You'll see that I have these grouped in 7. I can skip count by sevens and I can keep track of the amount of groups. And once I get to 49, I'll know that that's the answer to my problem. So I'm going to skip count by sevens and I'm keeping track on my fingers. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. So I kept track and I can see that there are 7 groups of 7. So I know 49 divided by 7 is 7. So this worked, and in this case we were accurate, but sevens aren't that easy to count by, to skip count by, especially when you get a little higher, and it's not that efficient. So what strategy could we use in order to solve dividing by 7 problems? So again, I'm going to think multiplication, and if I just don't know 7 times what is 42, I'm going to use a fact that I already know. And in this case, I'm going to use 21 divided by 7 because I know that fact, and I know 21 divided by 7 is 3. So I had a total of 42, and I've used up 21. So you'll notice with the subtraction problem here, I had 42, I used 21, and now I have 21 left. So I still have to take that 21 and divide it by 7. You'll notice that dividing by 7, my divisor doesn't change. I'm just chunking this out and using the total and chunking that total out into smaller pieces to figure this problem out. Well, I know 21 divided by 7 is 3, and if I add those 3's together, I can figure out that 42 divided by 7 is 6. So another way to think about this problem is to use an area model. So in this case, my light purple rectangle here, this has an area of 56. So I'm trying to show that with these brackets. I know that it has a side length of 7. So the first strategy I'm going to use is I'm going to think 7 times what is 56. And if I just don't know that answer, I'm going to break apart this rectangle into smaller chunks to see if I can figure that out. So, one type of division problem that I'm pretty good at is my 5. So I know 35 divided by 7 equals 5. So you'll see the total is 35. That's this area of this rectangle. And I know 7 times 5 is 35. I'm dividing by 7 because this side length is 7. So that dividing by 7 doesn't change. Well, I had 56 as my total rectangle. I've now figured out the area, that side length of the area, that's 35. And when I take 35 away from 56, I know that there's 21 left. So the area of this rectangle here is actually 21. I'm still dividing by 7. My divisor hasn't changed because this side length hasn't changed. So if this area is 21 and I divide that by 7, I know that this length here must be 3. So let's see if that makes sense. So I have 7 and I find this total length here, and I know that's 8, so 7 times 8 is 56. So that means 56 divided by 7, to find that answer, it's this side length that we were working on, is 8. So again, just to review, when dividing by sevens, the most efficient strategy is to think multiplication. I'm going to think 7 times what equals 63. If I know that, I'm done. I can enter that as my quotient and I'm good to go. But if I'm not sure about that, I'm going to break this up into smaller divide by 7 facts in order to make it usable for me. So I'm going to think, what fact do I know? Maybe it's close to 63 that I could use to help me. Well, I'm going to use 35 divided by 7. And as I've said in this video and other videos, fives are pretty helpful. They're easy facts to remember and they can be pretty helpful for us. So 63, and I have to subtract 35. So this one is a little bit more difficult in subtracting because we've got some regrouping to do, but I can still figure that out. I know that this will be 28. There's 28 left in the total. So I have 28 left in my total. I know I still have to divide that by 7. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. So now I take the quotient of each of these parts to figure out my whole, and I know 5 plus 4 is 9. 63 divided by 7 is 9. So I know at first, if you're listening to this strategy, whether we show with the area or with these number bonds, it sounds like this takes much longer. Like it would have been quicker to skip count by 7. But later on, if you practice this, you become really efficient with it. And it actually takes me longer to talk about it than it would take you to do in your head. And the cool thing about this strategy is that you can multiply 3-digit numbers divided by 7, and you could actually figure it out in your head, where if you were skipping counting by 7s, that would take you a really long time to figure out. So remember, when dividing by 7s, think multiplication. Think what times 7 is the dividend. Next best strategy would be to use a fact you already know, kind of chunk that out like that number bond example or the area model example. And the third most efficient strategy would be to skip count by 7s until you get to that dividend.